Rube, we thought about doing a podcast in the middle of the night, but then we thought, all right, let's actually get some sleep before we talk about Darius Slay.
Yeah, we've done a few middle of the night pods over the years. They're kind of fun. I kind of enjoy them.
They are fun.
But I also enjoy sleep.
Yeah, sleep is good too. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast. He's Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. The last time we talked to all you guys, the Eagles kind of still planned to release Darius Slay. The initial plan was to release him, and that didn't happen. He comes back. So we're going to get into that and everything that transpired to bring him back. Well, I guess not bring him back, to stay in Philly. We'll talk about CJ Gardner-Johnson and whether or not we think he's coming back. We'll also look at the totality of the moves we know so far from the Eagles, as well as which of their free agents are still available. But Rube, the Slay stuff, we knew there was a chance, and then things really kind of turned quickly, and he ends up staying.
Yeah, really wild day. All this transpired in the span of like 12 hours. We're like, wow, he's they're cutting Slay. And then 12 hours later, he's like tweeting out that he's staying. I guess his wife tweeted it out first.
She scooped him.
She did. She had that. She scooped everybody. She beat Schefter on that one and everyone. Really wild day, and fascinating one too, from both sides. And I give Slay credit for understanding the situation and not letting pride kind of guide him and doing what was best for him. And I give Howie a ton of credit for the flexibility he showed, because I think a lot of GMs would be like, no, I'm done with you. No, just go on. And I'd love to know at what point Howie thought maybe there was a chance that Slay was wavering a little and willing to accept what the Eagles thought was a workable situation. Obviously, by 4 o'clock, Howie had enough doubt to not cut him.
Yeah, I get the sense it was in the afternoon is when both sides thought there was a chance.
Yeah. And there's no reason to jump into it. There's no reason to, to do it. Look, if there's any doubt in your mind, you just wait a day. You can always cut him the next day. But both sides really showed me something in their ability to, it never got personal. There was never any name calling. I think Slay's been around long enough to understand things are a business, as emotional as he is. And I think Howie has gotten better at, a lot better at just being, nimble and flexible, and whatever's best for the team, he's going to do. So it was really a fascinating look into the two of them, and we'll learn more about it in the coming days. I think hopefully we get to talk to Howie fairly soon, get some details at Slay as well. But the bottom line is, there was a point not that long ago we thought Slay and Bradbury might both be gone. Now they got both their starting corners back, which is huge. And look, I know I've been saying all along that his second half play dropped off, but he's still a good player, and you're still better with him than without him. And it doesn't mean they're not going to draft a corner. It has nothing to do with that. So it's a win-win. Eagles clear out some cap room. Slay will still make a lot of money. I think the market just, wasn't what he thought it was, and that's not unusual for some of these guys.
That was the really confusing thing to me initially on Wednesday. Was we get word that the Eagles are releasing him, and I thought, well, I guess Rosenhaus has found the market for Slay, but you look around the league, and the defensive back market has been so soft that it was hard for me to understand their side of it. You're not going to make that. You're not going to get that deal anywhere else. So then you go to, okay, that they're going to release him. And then when they don't release him, my first thought was, well, normally the reason you don't release a player that everyone knows you're going to release is because you're trying to get trade compensation back. And I think that was still a possibility. I think that they thought he was going to leave, and they thought, well, maybe we can squeeze something out of him. Now, obviously, there were cap implications for that, because their plan was to use a post June 1st on him, which would eventually save them a ton of cap space. But then you start saying, well, how much is that worth compared to whatever draft compensation plus the immediate cap relief of trading him, and how does that balance out? I think that was part of their thought process too. But give both sides credit for figuring this out. It was a wild day. I mean, one of the more wild scenarios we've seen in recent memory.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's funny because we were talking on one of the earlier pods this week. I don't remember which, but how, with there's what 52 hours between the start of the of legal tampering and the start of free agency, and no matter how many deals get agreed to, a guy can back out, can change his mind up until the time he signs the contract, which he can't do until 4:00. Now, Slay, look, he was the Eagles' own player, so. But the point is, things change when you least expect it, and that's been the case in the NFL forever. There have been times where deals have fallen through. The Eagles, trade announcements. We thought Mark Brunell was coming here, Frank Gore, guys like that, and those were thought to be done deals, but they fell through at the last minute. I can't think of any others like that, but I can't think of anything like. A player who was about to be released or had been reported to be released, and the Eagles had made up their mind to release him, that ends up not getting released. I've been doing this a while, and I just don't remember anything like that.
Yeah, and we've seen scenarios where a guy he's going to get traded, but then how he can squeeze some draft compensation out of him, and he does. That's a wise play. We've seen how we do that before. I saw some people kind of ripping the reporting on it. Look, they were planning on releasing him. I mean, that wasn't made up. They were pretty set that this is we're not doing, like, he's not gonna accept what we need from him contractually. He's not happy with what we're offering, and there was a parting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you can rip the reporting when Slay himself is tweeting, I wonder what my next stop will be. That's Slay tweeting, I'm not going to be here. So, excuse me, the reporting wasn't wrong. Things just changed really quickly this time of year.
They do. They changed in this case. I mean,
that's the problem with doing a podcast. As soon as you get it posted, something has changed.
Yeah, that could happen again.
Yeah,
not with Slay. He's going to be back.
Well, probably.
Pretty fascinating. And now, I wonder how much, he actually in his tweet said run it back. They're kind of running it back with a lot of these players, and we'll get into the overall ramifications of that. But I'm sure that played a role too. Like, he got a taste of being on a good team after a lot of years in Detroit, where there were some lean years there, and you're coming off a Super Bowl appearance, and we know that this roster might not have the same level of talent as the 2022 team, but it's going to be awfully close. And this is still a really good roster in a conference where, tell you what, not a whole lot else. They have clearly the best quarterback in the conference and good pieces all around him. I understand why I'd want to say, and he loves James Bradbury, who then comes back. And that's the timing of free agency always blows me away, because if any one of these pieces falls out of line, it doesn't end up this way.
Yeah.
Like if they think Slay is staying, they probably don't try to sign Bradbury. But if they don't sign Bradbury, then Slay might be leaving. Right. So it's like the way that it lined up is just so perfect. This is where you end up.
This is called Howie Ball. It did fall into place amazingly. I lost my train of thought. I don't know what I was about to say, but
maybe we didn't get enough sleep. We tried.
It was really profound. I don't know. I have no idea. I
hate when that happens.
Yeah, it was good too. It was about Slay. I know.
I bet it was about Slay.
I know what it was.
We were talking about him.
I know what it was. So I've talked to a ton of the players from like the 2000 to 2000. Like the 95 to 2010, I guess, that whole team, that whole era of players, none of them finished their careers here. They all went, whether it was, Trey Thomas, John Runyon, Lito Shepherd, Sheldon Brown, Hugh Douglas, Trott, they all went to other teams. None of them were good teams. They never had the experience that they had here where, you have ownership that really cares. You had a coaching staff that was really good. You had a fan base that was obsessed with the team. I mean, why do so many players retire here and they go into the media or they start businesses? Because their name is so valuable, because fans think so much of them. And then you go finish your career in Jacksonville or Minnesota or Seattle or Detroit, wherever it is. And
4 cities just took strays, by the way. If you
they did. They did. And but yeah, it's not the same. And I remember talking to Lito on our WIP pregame show, and he's like, I should have just stayed here. I just should have accepted what they offered me. I got a little more money to go finish my career with. I think it was the Jets and then the Vikings. He said it's just never the same when you leave this place. And he said all the other guys feel the same way. Bobby Taylor, every one of these guys played 1 year somewhere else and then retired and then moved back here. And so I think about that when something like this happens. Like Slay could have gone somewhere else. And he wouldn't have had I mean, he's revered here. The fans love him, and he's got a great personality. He's team captain. He's respected in the locker room. He's been here 3 years now. He's made her home here. His wife's like really popular on social media. Wasn't she going to come to our pep rally? I didn't see her. Was she there?
I don't know if she came.
Yeah, she tweeted she was in.
There were a million people there. It was tough to see.
Yeah, there were. I didn't see her. I hope I didn't yell at her. I yelled at some guy. But
then it probably wasn't her.
Yeah, I could have yelled at someone else. I don't know. But yeah, so there's just certain value that's, I think, financial or non-salary related that comes from being in a place like this. And
I think it goes beyond the city. Like, I think it's that specific locker room too. And I think it's just the culture that they've been able to breed here. And I think it starts because you have guys who have been here as long as, we know the guys, BGA and Kels and Lane and Fletcher, guys who have been here 10 plus years. It's really rare to have that. So I think that's where the culture begins. But then you have a coach in Nick Sirianni who is a player's coach. He lets everyone show their personality. The guys, he stresses connecting. And I don't like, he's not stressing connecting so that they can keep these guys, but it's again, a byproduct of it, right? It's you breed this culture because it helps you win, but then all that goes into these guys wanting to stay. And I don't know what the other offers were for some of these players, but I mean, 4 of these guys, you're talking about Slay, BG, Fletcher Cox, and James Bradbury, presumably could have taken more money to play elsewhere, and they didn't.
I'm sure somebody would offer Jason Kelce $15 million if he said, I'm open to offers.
Yeah, he's a tough one to really know. Yeah. But like, then they paid him top of the market. So that's a tough, but like, at least those other 4, like, could have left. We know they could have gotten more money elsewhere, and they didn't.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's all because of one thing. I don't think it's all because this team's good. I think that's part of it, but I think it's because of what they have in that locker room.
And it all starts with the owner, I believe. I mean, he's the one he's hiring the coaches and he's setting the tone for the whole organization. And it's been that way since soon after he got here.
Yeah, I don't know if there are a lot of organizations around the league that they could get players to take lower salaries to stay.
Yeah, I would say in any sport.
In any sport, yeah, it's rare.
Yeah,
there are some.
Yeah,
certainly, and there are some good teams, but like this is different, and it's fun, and it's helping Howie because he needs all the help he can get right now.
Yeah, sure is. Yeah.
We'll see if he can pull another rabbit out of his hat because CJ Gardner-Johnson's still available. Our John Clark said this morning that they were yesterday they were pushing to retain CJ. Probably not going to be easy.
Yeah, but we're 4 days into this now, and he's still out there.
And we've talked about it. The longer a player remains available, the more likely it is that he's going to come back because that market isn't there.
The number just keeps dropping.
If they get CJ, I mean that's unbelievable. Yeah. We'll see if it happens.
Yeah.
That would be like magical.
Yeah. I said I thought they had a chance to get one out of Bradbury, Hargrave, and CJ. They had a chance to get one. I didn't think it was a lock. They did get any of them.
Yeah. So, I mean, we thought all those big guys could leave.
Yeah.
So, the fact that we're talking about all these guys coming back is pretty wild.
Yeah. And one guy coming back who never even left. How about that?
That's true. CJ did tweet on Thursday.
Really?
It lasted for about 6 minutes. The disrespect real exclamation point. I'm not in the business of reading into a tweet on just the sake of the tweet. Who do you think leads the league in tweets deleted, him or AJ?
Oh, man. AJ deletes a lot of tweets. I think CJ deletes more, though.
I don't know. They both delete a lot of tweets. So that'd be, if I was an agent, I think that would be a big piece of advice, is to stay off your phone at times like these.
Yeah, and the whole deleting tweets thing, it's like it's meaningless because there's going to be screenshots of everything.
Yeah. And anything like that. So here it is.
Yeah.
And everyone's screenshotting it.
Yeah. Yeah. Every single Eagles blog out there is like, ooh, like go.
Yeah. I don't know what it means. I mean, I without reading into that specific tweet, I think he's probably frustrated that he hasn't gotten the deal he wanted and the deal he thinks he deserves.
Sure.
And but you look at the safety market, and we talked about this the other day, like Jesse Bates.
The other day was 12 hours ago.
I know. Jesse Bates got an outlier contract, 4 years, $64 million.
What's the next biggest D-back? Do you have those in front of you?
From this.
Yeah. From this cycle.
Well, in terms of the safety market, Von Bell, 7.5 average. So 3 years, $22.5 million. Yeah. I mean, that's a big drop off.
Yeah, it really is.
There are some other players out there, but like, I don't think he's gonna get the deal he wants.
No, because
he would have had it.
He would have had it by now, and teams don't increase their offers. So
yeah.
Let's talk about CJ, because we were having this conversation before we started the pod. Like, how good is he? I
think he's good. I think he is an above average player. I think he's good. I don't think he's great yet, but I also think I know he's 25 years old, and I think he's still an ascending player. Yeah,
that's fair. I get the sense a lot of fans think he's, the best safety in the league, which he's not. I think he's a really good player. Does a lot of things well. I love his personality. I love what he brings to the field and the locker room. I don't think he's going to be a 6 interception a year guy. But I do think he'll, as he plays more and more safety, he'll acclimate to the position. And he's not a great tackler. You made the point off air in the green room.
Yeah, I shouldn't have done that. I hate when I do that. We start talking football out there, and I'm like, I should shut up and bring it in here.
I know. It's like that's what we always say, like, save it for the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to do the show before the show. But no, it was a good point that, the missed tackles, his tackling issues were really angle issues, and it's a new position for him. And certainly the angles in the slot are very different than at safety. So,
the depth is so different, right? So you're figuring it out. And I will say about the interceptions, and I'll bring up this point where it matters because I brought it up out there too. But, the interceptions to me, like, he had 6 and he made those plays, and some were spectacular plays, like the one he scooped up off the ground. But some of those interceptions were like almost gimmies. And yes, give him credit. He made the plays, but I think he can be a much better player and have way fewer interceptions.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't think it's fair to just judge his play on interceptions. I think there are a lot of other factors. I still think he's getting better. I think he's a guy who, there's a lot of potential there. And the versatility is nice too, especially if you're a team with Avonte Maddox, who, let's face it, has struggled to stay healthy. Having a player you can move around and can be that versatile is nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because I like the player, and I certainly he just turned 25. I mean, he's
young.
He was 24 for most of the season. I think he turned 25 in like around Christmas time. But yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, he had 5 interceptions his first 3 years, and then 6 in 12 games this year. I could see him being a good blitzer if they ever have a coach.
Yeah, I mean, he did that from the slot position in New Orleans a little bit.
Yeah.
And we've also heard that the Broncos have interest in CJ Gardner-Johnson. That was from Aaron Wilson, I believe, reported that. And that makes sense. Sean Payton is there, and they've been spending a ton of money, and they obviously has a history with Gardner-Johnson. Coached him for 3 years in New Orleans.
Former Eagles quarterbacks coach. I say it every time we mention him because people don't realize he coached Bobby Hoying.
Quite a long time ago.
Yeah. He wasn't very nice to us. He didn't like the media.
Oh, no?
No.
Good buddies with Dougie P.
Is he?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. They had some bet, like a golf bet a few years ago. I forget what the stakes were.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
It was something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, he's an interesting guy. I do like the player. I think he's good. You do forget how young he is.
Let me ask you this in a delicate way. The possible immaturity.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
does that give you pause at all? And I don't want to like.
Well, it could be keeping his value down.
I don't know, like not even about his value. Like, would that give you pause if you're the Eagles or any other team who's about to sign him to a substantial contract?
It wouldn't give me pause if I was the Eagles because of this locker room and the guys we've just talked about, Fletcher and BG and guys he and Slay, guys Bradbury has a lot of respect for. I think they'll keep him in line. If I'm another team out there trying to prepare an offer for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, you look at everything and it could keep his value down because teams, what's he going to do? What's he going to tweet? Was he going to embarrass us?
Yeah, and look, I want to qualify this because he's never been like in trouble with the law or like I don't think he's a bad guy. I think
he's a free spirit.
He's a free spirit, and that can be good, but sometimes it can put you on a little shaky ground. And I like CJ. I like CJ. I think he's a really fun guy to be around, and I think most of it is really good for the team. But some teams don't appreciate free spirits.
Right.
They don't appreciate guys having big personalities.
Right. And it's something I think Nick likes and encourages.
I mean, we know Nick likes him. When Nick was asked which player on the team he thinks resembles him from a temperament standpoint, he said CJ pretty quickly. Yeah. And we've heard stories about those two talking trash during practice, which is fun.
Yeah.
I think that's good. I like that he has an edge, and I think that's a good thing most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. But, I mean, he hasn't done anything that objectionable since he's been here, No,
that's the thing. It's like
but I do think his reputation could be hurting him league-wide.
Yeah, I don't know. And it's probably unfair because he got a lot of his reputation just from being a trash talker, which doesn't mean you're a bad guy.
I mean,
or
the Twitter presence, maybe. I don't know. I don't know what teams look for and how they think and what red flags they have. But I know for sure that, like you said, there are teams out there that want everybody to be, good old all-American boy. Just, shut up and go do your job and don't have a personality.
Yeah, I don't like that.
The Yankee way.
The Eagles have been really good about not doing that.
Yeah.
I think it matters. And I think that part leads to the culture and why guys want to come here in the first place.
Yeah, I agree.
Or want to stay.
But, like nobody can have a beard.
The Yankees.
Yeah, kick you off the podcast.
Yeah, I looked at so the reason I grew a beard at first, I have a big scar on my chin, and I was always annoyed. I would like nick it when I would shave. My buddy's brother, we were wrestling when I was a kid, and at the high school, and I was like probably like 7, and he was a big wrestling fan, and he like did some wrestling move and dropped me, and my chin just slammed on that on the concrete. Yeah,
on a concrete.
It was a concrete floor in the high school. Yeah.
Wait, you were wrestling on a concrete floor? I pictured you on a mat or something.
No, we weren't like really wrestling. We're just like, how like kids will just wrestle wherever. Yeah. We happened to be on concrete. He just dropped me. I was just gushing. Yeah.
Yeah. Hospital?
Oh, yeah. Many stitches.
Yeah.
Many stitches.
Interesting. How come the story's never come out before?
I mean, I don't know why.
Who was he?
Who was he?
Who was the kid? Are you still friends with him?
Oh, like we're very close.
Have you gotten back at him?
No, we're very, very close. So we're like brothers. So
yeah, I mean, that's who you want to get back at the most.
No.
All right.
Yeah.
Where were we?
I don't know. We were talking about football. So let's kind of navigate away from CJ.
Yeah.
A little bit and take a wider angle view, because you brought up this point that you look at the list of moves the Eagles have made. They're bringing back all these guys, and you can say, okay, it makes sense. You want to keep Slay. He's a good player. Bradbury, good player. Fletcher Cox, still a good player. Brandon Graham, still a good player. Jason Kelce, still a good player. Altogether, a lot of 30-year-old dudes you're bringing back.
Yeah, Bradbury will be 30 when the season starts. BG's 35. Kelsey's 35. Fletcher's 32. Slay's 32.
Yeah.
By the way, our pal T.Y. McGill signing with the 49ers.
I saw that.
That number one defense gets even better. Ty.
Put Ty next to Javon.
Yeah, that's gonna be tough to stop. Yeah, and taken individually, I think I don't have a problem with any of the moves. Yeah, I mean, I don't, but taken as a group, and especially coming off Howie saying, I'm not going to make the same mistake I made in 17 and run it back. He's running it back with older guys. Now, it seems like these guys can still play more than maybe the guys he ran it back with in 17, but we didn't know that going into 18. We didn't know Alshon was going to have injuries and not be worth it. Or I don't, Corey Graham, I don't know, whoever he brought back. I think there's more old guys back this year than in 18, it seems like. Now, some of the deals, like Kelsey's a separate category because you have to bring him back if he wants to be here. BG is a El Cheapo deal. Bradbury's still 29, so yeah, you think he's still in his prime. Fletch is one that it's a lot of money for a guy his age who has declined in the big picture, not this past year. But taken as a whole, it does make you wonder because older guys get hurt more, older guys decline at some point. All the analytics say that. So it is a little surprising taken as a whole that this has been the approach. And we'll see, we'll see where they go from here. But, you'd certainly like to, I mean, I don't think there's anyone else in that category that they could bring back at this point, right? There's no.
Well, I mean, theoretically, Linval and Sue.
Yeah, but yeah, that wouldn't be till November anyway. It'd be bargain basement prices if you do. But yeah, it is a concern. It's not a huge.
You could say Isaac, I guess.
Yeah,
nearing 30.
Yeah,
but so I look at this as like we mentioned the run it back. I think this is a team that thinks we have a chance to compete again next year and go for it. And Howie has said it before, like we make no excuses for some of the moves they made after 2017. And I think they're looking at it like our window's open right now. We have this quarterback and he's still cheap. He's going to be cheap. It's even when we think they're going to, we assume they're going to sign him to a long-term deal. It's still going to be cheap enough in 2023 that you can have other big contracts. So I think this is still like them in go for it mode. None of these contracts they've signed these guys to are going to really prohibit them down the line. There'll be dead money because of the way they're forced to structure them, but I don't think they're going to be super prohibitive. So I look at it like, yeah, they're trying to run this back and try to win a Super Bowl next year. And I understand that philosophy.
Yeah. Yeah. I do too, but I think it's a little risky. I think all these guys can still play though. So,
yeah, it's tough to not do it though. Cause you're that close. You look at the NFC and you go, I mean, gosh, is it ever going to get better than this opportunity? I mean, I don't think it's ever going to get better than last year's opportunity, but like looking forward, I mean, the NFC is wide open. You have the best quarterback in the conference by a wide margin. I don't even know who's the second best quarterback in the conference.
Kirk Cousins,
Dak Prescott, Derek Carr, Daniel Jones.
Oh my God. Yeah. I'm actually,
who is it?
I would probably say
Justin Fields.
It might be Jared Goff.
Great. If it's, you know what I mean? Like, but that's the point. And maybe there'll be a rookie who comes in and lights the world on fire, but
Stafford,
this is a chance. Well, who even knows?
Gino.
Yeah. I mean, this is the point. It's like that while it's not always going to be like this.
And just to give a taste of my column that I'm writing for tomorrow, the only quarterbacks currently in the NFC that have played in a Super Bowl are Jalen, Jared Goff, and Matt Stafford.
Yeah. I guess technically Aaron Rodgers is still in the NFC, but we know he's not going to be.
You had to do that. The Jets are in the AFC last time I checked.
Yeah.
They're in the AFL.
He is not a New York Jet yet.
He will be a New York Jet. I'm announcing it.
Do we have 500,000 people listening right now? For you and
At least.
All right. Catch all the sports action and more at Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Whether it's the money line or the pass line, there is something for everyone in a great sports book. Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Philly loves a winner. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, Rube. I have the list in front of me of the 2022 Eagles who are still free agents. Want to just go through the list and you let me know if it would make sense to perhaps entertain bringing these guys back. Now, the first one is CJ Gardner-Johnson. I'm going alphabetically, and we know that they'd like to, and we'll see if it happens. We already talked about him. So moving on. Yeah. Tyree Jackson.
No.
Exclusive rights free agent. They never tendered him.
Yeah.
There was a moment where he was a big part of the press conference after they traded Zach Ertz.
Yeah, he was. Gave him a couple years, kept getting hurt. Good luck, young man. Good kid.
Okay. I'll lump these two together, even though it's not alphabetical. Linval and Ndamukong. We talked about those guys. I think there's a chance that this team is really good next year and they need some depth. Those guys are a phone call away, but I'd be shocked if they're in a training camp.
Yeah, they would too. That's the last thing they need at this point in their lives.
Next one is interesting. Gardner Minshew. Report from The Athletic on Thursday that the Colts have some interest in Minshew. The Colts have just released Matt Ryan, who had the 4th overall pick, and they have Shane Steichen as their head coach. A lot of that lines up and makes sense for Gardner.
Yeah, it does. And, I think he played himself certainly out of starting quarterback. I think when he left Jacksonville, he probably was thinking, I'm going to be a starter in this league. I'm going to go to Philly and help my value. He played well against the Jets 2 years ago and played fine against Dallas. Just that Saints game didn't help a whole lot. Maybe Eagles can sign Matt Ryan as Jalen's backup.
Hometown discount?
We'll put another Super Bowl quarterback in the NFC.
That it would.
But not a starter. I'd bring him back. I think he could handle being a backup. I think he's a guy at this point in his career.
Talk about Matt Ryan?
Yeah.
How about Minshew? Would you still entertain bringing him back?
I would. Yeah.
I would too.
These backup quarterback contracts have been high.
They have been high, but they haven't been like crazy either. And now for a guy like Matt Ryan, like he's not going to play for super cheap either. You wouldn't think
for $3 million.
Yeah.
But I think it's a really important position,
especially on this team. We've seen, not just this team, but this franchise. Like, how many times have they needed to rely on backup quarterbacks?
Almost every year. What was the last playoff year where the quarterback started every game? It's been a long, long time. Might have been.
Oh, wow. Might have
been like Donovan Donovan didn't start the last 2 games in 2004, but it wasn't for an injury.
Yeah.
So, but the last time a quarterback started every game during the season and a playoff game, maybe Donovan in 2000 probably.
He played
2000. I think he played every game.
2008, he played every game.
Yeah, but he got benched, so you needed a backup. Got benched the second half against the Ravens.
Okay. Yeah. But not for injury. But yeah, same thing.
But
you needed a backup.
You needed a backup. And if the backup played better and didn't throw a pick 6 to Ed Reed, he would have started the next week against Arizona. But Donovan started against Arizona and threw like 5 touchdowns and lost to Arizona in the NFC Championship game in Glendale.
Yeah, so I'd be on board with that.
They've
but we'll
lost
see.
to 2 teams in the postseason in the same stadium. Just realized that. Okay. Who's next?
Well, I want to go real quick with Gardner. I think it makes sense in Indy, not just for Steichen, but with I'd assume that Bryce Young and Stroud are off the board by the time the Colts pick at 4. So if they're looking at Richardson or Will Levis, like those guys might need some time. So that'll be that makes more sense from Gardner's.
That's a good point.
Next one is Zach Pascal. Maybe you wait until after the draft.
Yeah, I know he's a Sirianni favorite. I know he's a good blocker, good locker room guy, but I'd like to see him do a little better there. So I would let him go. I wouldn't bring him back.
Okay. Yeah. What do you think they're going to do?
Probably bring it back.
I think that we both have him staying.
Probably.
Sargo. It makes sense. Like if you got to throw Nick Sirianni a bone and bring back his favorite player, it might as well be a receiver who makes minimum.
Yeah, and he didn't get Jacoby Brissett, his other favorite player. So
yeah, that's true. Brissett signed with Washington.
Yeah, and who's his other favorite? Keenan Allen.
Keenan Allen.
He talks about him all the time.
Plus Naheem Hines.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got a few favorites that come up.
Mike Williams.
Larry Karras.
Heard that a few million times. Next one, Robert Quinn.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think he looked cooked, but
get on with your life's work, as Buddy once said.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to spend 1 second on it because Sean Desai has that connection to him. But I mean, yeah, it wasn't. He didn't have anything. The tank looked empty, which is a shame because he was once a really good player.
He was.
But, and then the last one,
last year.
Yeah, the last one here. I'm surprised it's still available. Maybe he won't be by the time you guys are listening to this. Isaac Seumalo.
Yeah,
I thought he was at the top of the board in terms of like, at least near the top of the board in terms of offensive linemen who are pending free agents. And here we are recording this at Thursday, 3:00, and he's available.
Yeah, surprising. I thought somebody was going to give him like 4 years, $50 million.
He's a good player.
Yeah.
Maybe the injury history before the season has played a role. He's been hurt a lot in his career.
Yeah, could be.
But he's a good, solid player who's really versatile, can start at anywhere, really.
Probably might not want him at center, but he could get through a game at center.
Well, I don't know. He's never had the chance. I mean, everyone thought he was going to be a center.
Yeah.
I don't know if he can do it 7 years into his career, 8 years into his career.
Yeah, that is surprising. We'll see what happens there.
That's all I got.
But as far as the Eagles go, you're not going to be able to afford him unless his price comes down to $2 million.
And then you
still want Jurgens out there.
I don't know. That's tricky because do you want to have your second round pick that you really like sitting on the bench again?
Yeah, I don't.
I mean, it would tell us that they don't think he's a really good fit at guard. I think he's a center only. And honestly, if you have to wait 3 years to play a second round pick, you can argue that was a wasted second round pick.
Absolutely.
That's half of his time under contract.
It was tricky because they didn't know when they drafted him how long Kelsey, it's a year by year thing. So
but that was something, it wasn't like a surprise. We talked about this possibility the second they drafted him.
Yeah. And
it was why I was kind of iffy on the pick at the time because if you have to use 2 of your 4 years of cost controlled, I don't want to say ownership of a player, but cost controlled time
status
with a player,
that's
a lot.
That's why I think no matter how far,
and it's not a quarterback. I think quarterback's a little different because if you get the guy, you get the guy.
Yeah, I think that Jalen says it all the time, doesn't he? I think that he starts every answer. You seem thinking.
Long pause. Sigh.
I think that I wouldn't sign Isaac no matter how low his price gets because you have to, unless you have real serious doubts about Jurgens at right guard, and if you did, I guess you play Sua or something. I
don't know, but if you're going in this run it back mode and you think you have a good shot to win the Super Bowl, do you do it?
No.
Okay.
Well, I mean, how far does it have to come down? There's a price where, there's a price where it makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I don't think it'll come down that. I hope for Isaac's sake, I hope it doesn't.
Yeah, but he's got to keep your eye on because it is a little surprising. I thought he'd be in that first flurry.
I did too. Monday. Yeah. And it was TJ Edwards instead.
Yeah. 12:15, 12:60.
If you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, please rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the like button and subscribe there as well. That's it for Reuben. I'm Dave. This has been Eagle Eye. We'll talk to you soon.